attempting to roll back some of President Obama's executive action on immigration by tying riders on the issue to funding for the Homeland Security Department. But the president is threatening to veto that legislation. That is, if Senate Republicans can pass it. So let's talk about that with Republican Congressman Sean Duffy of Wisconsin. He's a member of the House Budget Committee, and Democratic Congressman Benny Thompson of Mississippi, a ranking member of the House Homeland Security Committee. Welcome to you both.
Thank you.
Thank you for being here. Congressman Duffy, the Department of Homeland Security protects the United States from terrorist attacks. Some Senate Republicans, among them Lindsey Graham, say this strategy should be revised in light of what happened in Paris. So at this moment in time, why mess with that department?
Well, we're not going to. We're going to fund Homeland Security, fully fund it, but we're going to defund the president's executive action. I mean, Carol, you have to understand that the president went with his executive memo for amnesty on his own. He didn't come to Congress. He didn't get our approval. And so now that he would come to the Congress and say, now I want you to fund my executive action outside the role of Congress. And if you don't, I'm going to shut down the national security of the United States. It's kind of like I'm going to take my ball and go home unless you do what I want. The president's going to have a choice. Fund national security, Homeland Security, but go with us on defunding the amnesty, or he's going to shut down the security of the U.S.
Congressman Thompson, do you think that Republicans are tying funding of the Department of Homeland Security to the immigration issue?
Well, there's no question about it, Carol. If they were not, we could have passed that bill in December when last Congress was in session. But Homeland Security's budget was held hostage for just a situation as this, and that's unfortunate. Historically, we've had a very bipartisan committee, and now this effort to put a poison pill amendments to the Homeland Security bill makes it really difficult for people to support it. And this is what it's not about. It's about protecting the homeland. It's not about executive authority, and it's not even about picking on children who live in this country, who are legitimate. It's about making sure that the homeland's safe.
And Carol, the poison pill was actually the president who did executive amnesty on his own. The brilliance of our founders was
isn't there another way to fight this than using Homeland Security?
Carol, remember during the shutdown a year and a half ago, you talked about the power of the purse. Don't use the funding of the government. You said use the power of the purse in these fights. And per your own prior questions to me, we're using the power of the purse to say, let's defend the homeland. But to think that you're going to come to Congress and say, I didn't include you in this executive amnesty, but I want you to fund it, the president is out to lunch thinking that we're going to do that. And if he wants to hold the security of the U.S. hostage for executive amnesty, which I would argue is unconstitutional, he's not on the side of the American people. Your own poll at CNN says that the American people agree with us that the president should go through the Congress, the duly elected representatives of our states and our districts, to get this done the right way.
But I'm also sure that most Americans would want to fund the Department of Homeland Security at this particular time in history.
And the question is, Carol, why add these egregious amendments to a straight-up Homeland Security bill that all of us support? If you want to do immigration reform, let's bring it in a freestanding manner, and I'm prepared, like other members of Congress, to debate it. There's no question the president has executive authority to do what he's done. Ronald Reagan has done it. Both Bush presidents, all presidents have the authority to issue these executive amendments. So clearly,
but see, you're saying that now I can understand why Congressman Duffy wants to use the power of the purse, because you have no intention of changing your mind.
Oh no, it's not changing your mind. It's just the president has the authority to do what he did. Now, if you disagree with it, then pass a bill, freestanding bill, that doesn't have the riders on it.
But Carol, if I was to buy into that argument that the president has the authority, which I don't, but if I did, I would tell you that we in the Congress have the authority, the power of the purse, how we spend the money. And to be clear, we are funding Homeland Security. That will be funded, but we're not going to fund the president's executive action, which is our authority to do so, because we do have that power from our founders.
Well, you're funding it different.
I want to ask you both. I'd like to ask you both about something else that's come up. I know. I'm glad you're standing together. It makes me feel good. I'd like to turn your attention to something else that's become kind of a controversy. The White House is refusing to call what happened in Paris an act of Islamic extremism. Listen to Josh Earnest.
we have not chosen to use that label because it doesn't seem to accurately describe what had happened. We also don't want to be in a situation where we are legitimizing what we consider to be a completely illegitimate justification for this violence, this act of terrorism.
Congressman Duffy, do you agree with Josh Earnest?
As you can imagine, I don't. I think we should be honest with our language and truthful with our language and call things for what they are. This is Islamic terrorism. And it's radical Islamic terrorism. And I think to separate the radicals from the good Muslims who don't agree in this kind of violence, I think is really important. But again, these aren't Buddhist terrorists. They're not Christian terrorists. They're not secular terrorists. These truly are Muslims who are engaged in this kind of behavior. And I think we should call it for what it is, Carol.
Congressman Thompson,
clearly,
why not call it for what it is?
Well, it is an act of terrorism, and I don't want to get into the splitting of the hair. What these men did in France is unconscionable. We can't allow it. We have to fight it with every fiber in our body, and that's why it's so important to fund the Department of Homeland Security. We can't defend this country helter-skelter till the end of February and then come back with a continuing resolution. This is not how you defend America. What we're going to have to do is fully fund the Department of Homeland Security.
The truth matters, Carol, in language that the president uses, but also the fact that we are funding Homeland Security. We are doing that. We're going to protect the Homeland.
Well, you funded it until the end of February.
Until the end of February.
We're going to fund it today.
Absolutely.
Though. In our vote today, Carol, we fund it, but we defund the executive amnesty, which your viewers agree with.
All right. I have to leave it there. Republican Congressman Sean Duffy of Wisconsin, Democratic Congressman Benny Thompson of Mississippi. Thanks to you both. Still to come in the newsroom from bikini-clad